Welcome students, film studies students. This is Professor Inglet, and today I wanted to talk about film subject, setting, and composition, which is known as mise en scene. Let me share my screen and pull up the PowerPoint. All right, mise en scene. What is mise en scene? Mise en scene means in French, a director's staging of a play. And the mise en scene contains the setting, the subjects, the characters within the film, and the composition of a frame. Mise en scene creates the mood, the meaning, or the theme in the film. To the right here, I have a picture of 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the opening scenes. The mise en scene contains the setting. The setting's represented by the planet Earth in prehistoric times. Mise en scene focuses on the subjects. The subjects within this frame include the primates and the monolith, which is in the center. And the monolith is closely aligned in the center of the frame. That's called symmetrical composition. One aspect of mise en scene is the setting. Setting is the place where the film action occurs. You have basically two types of setting. You have a set, which is a constructed place. Then you have location, which is a real place. You also have a computer established setting these days. The computer can create all kinds of settings. A limbo setting is a blank or out of focus setting. You have two types of settings. You have a realistic setting, which creates realism to the film, and you have non-realistic settings, which create exaggerated effects. In this picture, we have an example of a non-realistic setting. This is the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And you can see all the distorted angles within this set, a constructed place. And the characters within the set are wearing some interesting clothing as well. Yeah. Another type of non-realistic setting you can find in Tim Burton's films. In Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas, and some of his other films also have non-realistic settings. What is the function of settings? Functions of settings can indicate a place and time when the action occurs. Setting can express beauty and vastness within nature. And in this scene, we have a picture of the searchers. You have the cowboys coming up the hill, and you have the background. The cowboys are in the foreground or almost in the foreground. Then you have the background of the Western civilization. You have loose framing, which presents the subject with abundant space. In this picture of the searchers, this is an example of loose framing. In contrast to loose framing, we have tight framing, and that leaves little space around the subject. Setting also reveals character features. Setting can also represent changes in a character or a theme. Subjects is the next focus. Actions and reactions reveal character. We also learn about characters by their appearance, including physical characteristics, their posture, the gestures that they make, the clothing that they wear, the makeup, and the hairstyle. Here's an example of clothing worn by Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, and she reveals a seductive attitude and disrupts Benjamin's equilibrium. And you can see on Benjamin's face, you can see he's somewhat startled in this particular scene. Characters heighten the contrast between adversaries. In this scene, we have an example of Star Wars: A New Hope. We have the character Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting on the Death Star. We can see Kenobi wearing a monk-style clothing, while Vader wears a heavy black suit with a helmet. Even their lightsabers are different colors. Darth Vader's lightsaber is red and blue is Kenobi's. Again, we have characters that heighten contrast between adversaries through this scene. Other subjects as characters, we have round characters. Round characters are well-developed characters, and they are the main people within the film. Then we have flat characters, they're secondary characters, they're less developed in nature. We have method actors, the acting that results after the performer studies the background and personality of a character in depth and uses various techniques to immerse himself or herself in the role. Two method actors as examples are Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. Here we have an example of Marlon Brando in The Godfather. He's a method actor. Next, we have character actors. They are actors who tend to specialize in well-defined secondary roles. A good example of that is Jennifer Coolidge of American Pie. Also, Dennis Hopper is considered a character actor. Non-professional actors is another subject as character. People with no training or experience before the camera or theatrical audiences. Italian neorealist cinema tends to have non-professional actors as subjects. Cameo is another aspect. It's a quick part revealing a character within the film, and Hitchcock is known to do this. Alfred Hitchcock, he tends to be in the first 5 minutes of most of his films. Casting against type is to play a role unlike their usual previous roles. A good example of that is Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda played positive roles in many films, but he was cast against type in Once Upon a Time in the West, where he plays a villain. Tom Hanks in Road to Perdition is casted against type. He plays an anti-hero in that film, where he typically plays the positive role in other films uh, that he plays in. Also related to composition is the aspect ratio. And here we have an example or image of aspect ratios within films. 4:3 used to be the television screen in the old days. It's 1.33 to 1. That's called the standard aspect ratio. Then we have larger aspect ratios in films today. The wider the screen, the better, correct? Uh, the arrangement of lighting and subjects in relation to each other and to the sides of the frame is composition. And part of composition, as I mentioned, is aspect ratio. The aspect ratio indicates the shape of an image, specifically the relationship of the image's width to its height. As I said before, standard aspect ratio is 1.33 to 1. The ratio since the 1960s is 1.85 to 1. And then the widescreen showings today is 2.35 to 1. Then if you go into an IMAX screen, it's even larger than that. Widescreen composition can create dynamic conflicts between characters. So we tend to like the widescreen composition these days. Composition, empty space, often used to convey a sense of loss. Framing can create the sense of violating space, as in many action films. Framing can convey contending forces when creating conflict between two characters, such as this scene in Psycho to the right of me. We have Norman Bates and then the woman. He's bringing out food to the woman, and the woman basically says that she's not hungry. And this scene leads to ultimately the shower scene within Psycho. Framing can also create alienation between characters. We have something called the split screen technique, which shows two or more images simultaneously on the same screen. An example of a split screen technique is Run Lola Run. Here's an example of Run Lola Run. You have Lola, you have her boyfriend, and then you have the clock ticking in the background. So this is a split screen technique in 3 different ways. Uh, Also in composition, we have foreground and background. Foreground is the frame contains characters or objects nearest to the audience. In this picture of Full Metal Jacket, the sergeant is in the foreground. The background is the frame contains characters or objects in the back of the film, and the cadets are in the background of this particular scene in Full Metal Jacket. We have rack focus, that's camera techniques that shift between foreground and background quickly. That's called a rack focus. Two types of composition are symmetrical composition and asymmetrical composition. This scene in Full Metal Jacket is an example of symmetry, which is the subject is seen in the approximate center of the frame. Asymmetrical composition, the subject is seen as uneven in the frame, which creates conflict. Also, using mise en scene outside the frame. Sometimes mise en scene promotes a political or social theme. If you watch Do the Right Thing, uh, there's a scene in Do the Right Thing where the mayor, there's some graffiti on the wall that says dump Koch. Koch is the mayor of New York City. So that's mise en scene promoting a political or social scene outside the frame of the movie. In films such as Tom Cruise's film here, place products within a film as advertisements. We have advertisements of Ray-Bans. He's wearing Ray-Bans. A lot of times you'll see in older films like Pepsi or Coke cans as part of the props of the film. That's something you'll see as product placement. Parody is amusing imitation of human behavior, as seen in Spaceballs, which imitates Star Wars. So a film references some other film that's also using mise en scene outside the frame. Here's the works cited page. A lot of this information comes from Phillips' Film and Introduction, etc. Thank you for listening to Mise en Scene. Hopefully, you've learned something about the arrangements of the film, the characters, the settings, and the composition of the scene. Thank you.